So now let's take a look at Sierra Leone, who's certainly one of the top three Derby contenders this year in most people's estimation. We'll take a look at him. He's a late runner. He's one of several closers we have in the field this year, the prospective field. He's owned by Peter Brandt, and who's a very strong New York presence, mostly on turf. But it's a syndicate, so he's got Magnier and Tabor. Of course, they're a European outfit that runs a lot in the U.S. and very prominent. It's the remnants of what they called Sangsters Gangsters. Robert Sangster was a very prominent owner back in the day and tried to corner the market on Northern Dancer. Gets a little fun fact trivia. Chad Brown's a trainer, and got Tyler Gaffalione aboard, and you can see by the record this horse really only has one blemish, and that was a very close second in the Sierra Leone. Has most recently won the Bluegrass Stakes, and that was the second start of the year. So be coming into the Derby third off the layoff, which is certainly favorable place to be. We take a look at the pedigree, and pretty darn good, by Gunrunner, and we know what he can do. The fact that he's precocious pretty early and is demonstrating so much ability right now, I think it bodes very well. As we know, a lot of times Gunrunners do get better as they get older, so it's kind of scary to think Sierra Leone later in the year what he might turn out to be. We'll look up top at the numbers, the dosage profile. It's very similar to Fierceness to a degree. Not a lot of stamina influences, but the dosage index does come out at 2, and that's perfectly suited for the Derby. Plenty of stamina. We're not going to worry about Fierceness in that regard. You see his genetic strength value is higher than Fierceness, and that would probably have to do more with the Candy Ride influence, and also from the dam side, AP Indy, which is a very prominent sire line, as we know. And you can see, just as a little aside, the genetic strength value scores of the stallions are noted in parentheses. So when you look over and you see Seattle Slew at 83.97, that's one of the higher ones. So that's a super strong line. Just a little something to keep in mind. You see he's from the female family 2B, and we look down at the Conduit Mare profile, more trending towards stamina than speed. So stamina is not going to be a problem for Sierra Leone. It works out. The triads are more leaning that way, but I think this one has plenty of speed as well. So we take a look at, these are Gunrunner. These are his most prominent get so far, and you see the great Echo Zulu, and wish we had rest in peace. I wish she was still around. Boy, what a hell of a horse she was. And you see quite a few we've seen before. Gunite, Taba, Cyberknife, Early Voting, who won the Preakness. We got the inevitable Red Route 1, the deep closer. Disarm, Shotgun Hardy, we just saw this weekend. Locked, wish was on the Derby Trail still. So there's a fair amount of good earners here, and of course that doesn't include the Japanese ones. You see her at the top of the list. Gunrunner's been a pretty effective sire, to say the least, so far. We'll take a look at the dam, and there's only one sibling to Sierra Leone, and that's Monegasque, I guess is the way you would pronounce that, and is a colt, and hasn't run with a whole lot of prominence. So this is a fairly young mare, and only has 2 progeny. So not a blue hen or anything of that nature, but certainly from the pedigree does offer a lot of stamina, and that's the important thing. And Sierra Leone's taking care of the class so far. So we look at the race record, and we see the 4 starts, and obviously the most prominent. Note for a minute that believe it is Sierra Leone's only run around 2 turns. I think, well, actually, no, his maiden was a 1-turn mile, I believe. But his 3 races have all been around 2 turns, and that's clearly what he wants to do. And you see that he's saved for the very slight loss in the Remsen, that he's pretty much perfect so far. Now we're going to take a look at the Bluegrass, the Risen Star, and the Remsen individually and see if we can see anything. So let's take a look there before we get to our pace study. So let's take a look at the Remsen, and it's always important to note that these are 2-year-olds running at 1 1/8. So I think that's what, obviously what got people really excited about Dornoch as well as Sierra Leone is that they put on such a show at 2 years old. So let's take a look at it.
Slow start for Private Desire is now hustled for speed. Domestic Product is right there. So is Dornoch, and they are tightly bunched as they
see
want
Domestic
the front
Product a little more forwardly placed, a little
secure
keen
the
as he
front.
was
Domestic
early in
Product
his
down towards the
career.
inside is back to
He's
second.
since learned to
Bilal
rate
is
a
gonna be
little
three
bit.
wide. Private Desire was
You
off
see
slowly.
Dornoch
Is
right to
rushed
lead,
up
and the
in
pace was
pressure.
pretty crisp.
Private Desire is going to push the tempo, and Private Desire
And
tugging
Sierra
to the front
Leone just
is now
lingering
gonna
at the
challenge
back.
Dornoch as they hook up with the backstretch. There's Bilal, well settled in third. Domestic Product on a tight hold here is in fourth at the rail there. Moving forward is Where's Chris is in the fifth position. Out in the center of the racetrack is Copper Tax. Then moving forward is Drum Roll Please. Tightly bunched on the front end. At the rail there is Ladom Bro. Moonlight is the gray. Sierra Leone is the trailer. It's about 12
see, he's not
lengths
even in the
trailer.
screen
They
yet.
went 23 seconds flat for that opening quarter mile. Dornoch is the leader. Bilal is right there, stalking from second. Private Desires lost some ground in third. Domestic Product starts to move forward as at the rail in fourth. Where's Chris is in between horses in fifth. Copper Tax out wider. Shoved along is Ladom Bro. Drum Roll Please is going to corner wide. Here comes a run from Moonlight. Arad Ortiz Jr. is the gray. They're on the move, about to split rivals. Sierra Leone is still the trailer. 46-4, the half-mile time. Dornoch is the leader. Bilal is ready to challenge. Domestic Product got off the rail.
Rolling.
Here comes a big run from Drum Roll Please from the back. Where's Chris is launching
Just
a rally.
like a
Here
big
comes the
freight
big
train.
bounding strides of Sierra Leone
Staying
from the
out of
back
trouble,
the field.
swings them
Up
out
top,
wide.
It's the top of the stretch, and it's Dornoch who's kicked. Dornoch is now opening up that margin. It's Dornoch who's up by 3-4 wide, just ducked in there. Sierra Leone is rolling. Here comes
at
the
that big kick.
bounding strides of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone from last to first. This is a big effort. Battling on is Dornoch, who's back to second. Sierra Leone is plugging in. Dornoch is coming back. Dornoch not done.
Still can't figure out how Dornoch came back and won that one. I still can't figure that one out. But you just saw that big precursor of the big kick on display. Pretty damn good.
It looked like Dornoch in the Remsen.
So now we're going to take a look at the Risen Star, and this is Sierra Leone's debut at 3. And you see it's muddy again.
And they're off in the Risen Star Stakes. There's Cardinal with for the inside Awesome Runa. Hall of Fame is up close, and here's Track Phantom.
And you see Track Phantom just doing what he does, just getting right to the lead. And
Track Phantom is just faster than Cardinal.
this pace didn't materialize quite the way we thought. We have to remember that this pace was pretty slow because Track Phantom was able to dictate, really didn't get the challenge from Cardinal that we thought.
As they go to the back of this sloppy track. And Sierra Leone settles in the Navy Silks, 3 clear from Moonlight, who's next. Well, 4 clear.
See, this was important because they put the blinkers on Sierra Leone, and he was a little more forward in this race than he had been in his prior two. And so I thought this was a really good sign that a horse who's certainly getting it, and they couldn't beat him with a slow pace, and that was the most important thing about this race for sure.
Real Men Violin, and on the far outside,
he's taking a little bit of kickback too, which he didn't have to do in the first couple.
Freedom, Sierra Leone, Moonlight, Anna Marie. The trailer remains Tinsy Indy. Half mile for Track Phantom. 49.67 seconds.
And you know, Catching Freedom's got the jump on him right here too,
continues to hold on to this
which is noteworthy. You see, he's making his move a little early, which was smart to do. But
Chasing Freedom is 4 wide.
Regardless of that, didn't matter.
Violin toward the inside as they turn for home after
swung
3/4.
Sierra Leone right out, and he showed a little athleticism there too. I thought being able to swing right out like that.
Hall of Fame flattens out. Chasing Freedom.
But once that train is rolling, boy, it's awful tough to stop.
It's Track Phantom, Resilience, Chasing Freedom in tight quarters between horses. Sierra Leone on the outside for Tyler Gaffalione. Sierra Leone,
and another big one.
Phantom down.
And I thought that was
Chasing
particularly
Freedom third,
impressive because of the slow fractions. more than anything else. I like this better than the Bluegrass, which we'll take a look at next. So now we're going to take a look at the Bluegrass Stakes, and remember, this is the second in the form cycle. So for Sierra Leone, the Kentucky Derby will be the third, and that's will lead to a peak effort. So all systems are go, and leading into this, and we just wanted to see if he could take another step forward. Let's see how it panned out.
And they're off in the Toyota Bluegrass. There goes Top Connor out for the early lead. Top Connor right out of the gate and right to the front.
And then we got to remember, too, Top Connor was a Chad Brown in here, so there was a pretty good certainty that there'd be a rabbit in here to set some pace for Sierra Leone. And that's why I kind of like the Risen Star better, because the pace wasn't that strong and he still closed into it.
Ninth position. Mugatu is last of the 10. Top Connor is the leader. Top Connor on top by 3/4 of a length, headed on to the back stretch.
Lingering in the back. Now, I thought after the Risen Star that maybe the intent was to get him a little more engaged. So I was a little surprised that he was quite this far back, but
against the rail, just 2 lengths off the lead. Gap with 2 more.
Matter.
BU sneaks up the rail.
But he did have pace to run to, too, so
Good
let's
money,
remember
6th
that.
on the outside. It is followed by Seize the Gray in 7th. Lat Long is 8th. Mugatu is 9th, and Sierra Leone is last of 10, facing a lot of traffic to deal with onto the front turn. 46,
pretty good pace for 2
0.48
turns.
seconds, the time for that first half mile. Top Connor, the leader. Top Connor leads a length and a half, just a touch, is second by a length to Epic Ride, who's third a half length. Dornock is still there in fourth to the inside, and BU is in fifth and still 7 lengths off the lead. Now Sierra Leone is toward the center of the pack, looking toward the outside. 8 lengths to make up, just over a quarter mile to go. Top Connor is the leader. Epic Ride swings wide, just a touch between horses. Dornock has to shift lanes along with Sierra Leone. That pair out in the center of the track, still 5 lengths off the lead as they move by the 8th pole. Just a touch has taken the lead from Top Connor. Sierra Leone is running on from the outside.
Rolling.
To
There
go.
goes the freight train.
Sierra Leone comes forward for the lead and deep stretch and wins the
Perfect
Toyota
scenario
Bluegrass
for a late
Tyler
runner,
Gaffalione.
really,
Just
with his
touch
kind of talent.
Was second. Epic
but a
Ride
very
was
solid
third.
win, nonetheless.
1 minute, 50.08
So now we'll take a look at the pace study,
seconds.
see what that reveals. So if we take a look at the pace study for Sierra Leone, we've listed the 3 races, the 3 most recent, the Remsen, the conclusion of the 2-year-old campaign, the Risen Star to start the 3-year-old campaign, and then the Bluegrass Stakes was the last one. And just as a refresher, 1FR, 2FR, and 3FR are the first, second, and third pace calls. So it would start at the half-mile point for a route, and then we have the bottom numbers are the early pace, which is the second pace call, the average pace, which is dividing is an average of the EP and SP. SP is the sustained pace. That is the average of the second and third pace calls, and that's more of a measure of how a horse is carrying their speed towards the end of the race. And of course, the average speed is just taking the entire race into account. And I'll just reiterate, as I did with the video with Fierceness, that horses who lead in the AP and SP, the average pace and sustained pace, are lead in both those categories, are usually a pretty strong candidate to win the Kentucky Derby. So just want to keep that in mind. And we're certainly going to put them all together, but individually, we're taking a look. Now, I will say from once I did the pace calculations, these came out markedly different than I expected. What I had expected to see was a very steady progression, particularly in the third fraction. But if you notice here, what you'll see is, and the Remsen Stakes, really where Sierra Leone made his move was in the second pace call. That's when he made a big move to get into the race and sustained it with a pretty good kick. And as I mentioned with Fierceness, when you see a third fraction that's over 53, that usually means a horse is not going to have a problem with 1.25 miles, and it makes him a very strong candidate to win the race. So from the Remsen, you see that 53.31 for a 2-year-old. That's what was popping eyes, because you don't see that too often with a 2-year-old. Now, the Risen Star, you see that because the pace was slow early, obviously that first fraction for Sierra Leone is going to be lower. And once again, he made a move in the middle of the race, right around the second call, to get into contention, and that makes perfect sense. It's the beginning of a rally. And then he flattens out a little bit in the stretch, but still, that's a very strong final fraction. And that's why I like the Risen Star as a race, to me, is much more impressive than the Bluegrass, because there was no pace to run to, and he still was able to close into it. And I thought his fractions were very reasonable. They're not overly slow early on, where he had to run just a really monster big late fraction to close into a slow pace. So I think that's the most encouraging part of it. Now, if you look at the Bluegrass, there was pace in that race, and you can see Sierra Leone consequently. Some Dale Romans pointed out, when you put a horse on the front end and they display speed, that means every horse behind them has to run faster too. And this is kind of an instance of it, with Top Connor on the lead setting pretty quick fractions. Sierra Leone had to run faster too, but was still able to make that middle rally in the second call with the 55.04. And because probably the pace was a little quick, it's a little understandable that the closing kick wasn't quite as strong as it was in the Risen Star. It's a little, to me, it's a little surprising. It wasn't building on the Risen Star and the Remsen. I expected it to be a better third fraction, so I'm a little surprised at that. And it just gives you a little funky feeling about it. However, it still was an excellent race. And based on these three, he's not doing anything wrong. This is definitely a horse who's getting better. And one thing you can take from it a little bit in the Bluegrass is the fact that he had to run a little bit more early than perhaps they want to, and he was still able to win the race. The third fraction, that is a little troubling, though, 52, because that's borderline for a 1.25 miles. And the fact that he didn't progress from the Risen Star and the Remsen is a little bit of a concern for me. Still, all things considered, he's still running it. His pace numbers are definitely commensurate with a horse who's a win candidate for the Kentucky Derby. So just to take a look, issues and concerns. Tactical speed, I think this horse has it. I think his maiden race, he demonstrated that he can be tactical. But, he's such a big horse, and he seems like, they always try to get him way to the outside because they don't want him having to be to pick his way through runners. So, the Derby, obviously, that may be a concern. That may be something that has to happen. I don't think it's a real big concern, but it is something to think about with Sierra Leone. Secondly is working out a trip. Now, of course, that applies to any horse running in the Kentucky Derby. It's the horses who get the trips are the ones that are prominent in the race. So far, he's been able to work out a trip in every race. He's basically, his maiden race was probably the most impressive because he did have to swing out to get the job done and had to work out a trip and show a little bit of athleticism. And that's, I have noticed that a time or two in his races that he can be athletic and when he needs to be. Stopping a freight train is because he's a big horse. That's the thing you wonder about is how tactical can he be and how athletic can he be if he gets stuck in the Derby, and will he be able to extricate himself? We had that with Tappet Trice last year. Was that kind of horse? They had to take him to the outside, keep him out of trouble, because once he gets going, anything that would impede his closing would just kill his race. So it's a little bit of a concern. Now, these are they seem very similar in nature, and I think they're relatively minor compared to the concerns we have with fierceness, because this horse has, just hasn't done anything wrong. And if you consider that went right into a graded stakes off the maiden and nearly won the damn thing, came out from the layoff to debut at 3 and just has picked up right where he left off. So all things a go for Sierra Leone. I think this is a major league win candidate, and I think in looking at his races, the pace study, the Bluegrass gives me a little bit of concern about that, but we'll see when we take a look at the rest of the horses how that compares. And I have a feeling it's not going to change our mind too much. Sierra Leone, top candidate to win the Derby.